The middle class, once regarded as the cornerstone of financial security and opportunity, is quietly eroding. Rising living costs, stagnating wages, and increasing inequality are reshaping the very concept of what it means to belong to this group. Many families are finding it increasingly difficult to maintain their standard of living amidst mounting economic pressures. This isn't merely a discussion about numbers, it's a reflection of real lives and the profound challenges posed by today's shifting economic landscape. Let's explore why the middle class is fading and how current trends are making it harder to sustain financial stability. A major factor impacting the middle class is stagnant wages. Despite workers being more productive than ever, their earnings haven't kept up with this increased output. Over time, this growing disparity has left families feeling as though they are working harder, but falling further behind financially. For instance, while worker productivity has risen by over 60% in recent decades, average wages have grown by less than 20%. This gap leaves many families grappling with uncertainty and financial stress. Take the federal minimum wage in the United States, which has remained at $7.25 per hour since 2009. When adjusted for inflation, its purchasing power has significantly diminished, effectively meaning workers are earning less now than they did over a decade ago. The housing market further highlights the struggles of the middle class. Owning a home, once a realistic aspiration, has become an unattainable dream for many. Median home prices in the U.S. now exceed $400,000 compared to just over $100,000 in the early 1990s. Renting isn't much easier, with average monthly rents in major cities surpassing $2,000. These rising costs force families to allocate a disproportionate share of their income, often over 30% on housing, leaving little room for other necessities or savings. For younger families and first-time buyers, competition from institutional investors who buy properties for profit further exacerbates the issue, making affordability even more elusive. Healthcare expenses represent another significant strain on middle-class budgets. Over the past 2 decades, the average annual cost of healthcare per person in the U.S. has skyrocketed from around $5,000 to over $12,500. Even families with employer-sponsored insurance face substantial out-of-pocket costs, including high deductibles and copays. Routine doctor visits can cost hundreds of dollars, while hospital stays for minor procedures can result in bills amounting to thousands. These unanticipated costs often force families to deplete savings or take on debt, further undermining their financial stability. Inflation has also quietly eroded the purchasing power of middle-class families. Everyday necessities like groceries, gas, and utilities have seen consistent price increases, leaving households stretched thin. For example, a dozen eggs that once cost around $1.5 now frequently exceeds $4.5 in many areas. Gas prices, while slightly lower than recent peaks, still average around $3.8 per gallon. Meanwhile, utility bills, particularly in colder regions, these rising costs leave families with less money for discretionary spending, forcing difficult decisions between necessities and long-term savings. Education, historically viewed as a stepping stone to a better life, has become another heavy financial burden for the middle class. The average cost of tuition at public universities has more than doubled since the 1980s, now exceeding $10,000 annually. This sharp increase has led to an unprecedented rise in student loan debt, which now totals over $1.7 trillion in the U.S. On average, borrowers owe more than $37,000, delaying major life events such as buying a home or starting a family. Parents, in turn, often sacrifice their own financial security by tapping into retirement savings or incurring additional debt to fund their children's education. Job instability adds yet another layer of complexity to middle-class challenges. Traditional full-time roles offering steady pay and benefits are becoming rarer, replaced by gig work, freelance jobs, and short-term contracts. Gig workers, such as rideshare drivers and delivery personnel, often earn less than minimum wage once expenses like gas and maintenance are factored in. These workers must also handle their own healthcare and retirement planning, leaving little room to prepare for financial emergencies or long-term goals. This lack of stability places families in precarious situations, unable to build a solid financial foundation. The growing wealth gap between the rich and the middle class only deepens these struggles. In the U.S., the wealthiest 1% now control over 34% of the nation's wealth, while the share held by the middle class continues to decline. The stock market, a significant driver of wealth, disproportionately benefits the wealthy, who can afford to invest. Middle-class families, however, often lack the resources to invest, and instead struggle to save for emergencies, further widening the financial divide. Debt has become an unavoidable aspect of life for many middle-class families. Credit card debt in the U.S. recently surpassed 1 trillion, with the average household carrying over 6.0 in balances. High interest rates, often exceeding 20%, make it challenging to pay off these debts, creating a cycle of financial dependence. To cover emergencies, families frequently turn to personal loans or payday advances, which only compound their financial difficulties. Even when middle-class families see increases in income, lifestyle inflation, the tendency to spend more as earnings grow, often negates those gains. For instance, upgrading to a larger home, leasing a more expensive car, or taking extravagant vacations may appear to signify success but often leads to living paycheck to paycheck. Breaking free from this cycle requires a conscious effort to focus on long-term goals rather than immediate gratification. The rise of automation and technological advancements has also played a pivotal role in diminishing the middle class. While these innovations have increased efficiency and productivity, they've disrupted traditional jobs in industries such as manufacturing, retail, and transportation. Factory roles that once provided stable incomes are now being replaced by automated systems. Similarly, self-checkout kiosks and e-commerce platforms are reducing demand for retail workers, while advancements in autonomous vehicles threaten the livelihoods of truck drivers and delivery personnel. Workers who lack access to affordable retraining programs or opportunities to upskill are often left behind, further widening the gap between those who thrive and those who These interconnected challenges, rising expenses, stagnant wages, and increasing inequality, have created a financial environment that is increasingly difficult for the middle class to navigate. Families are working tirelessly to keep up, but the stability that once defined middle-class life is unraveling, leaving them to face an uncertain economic future.